Hi, everybody. Apparently, I was in mute. So, welcome to Level Up Academy live stream. So, as you guys know, last year, this 1 year, okay, actually, today, I believe, I had 36 subscribers on YouTube. Then I said, okay, my goal is to hit 5,000 subscribers by December of 2023. Instead, you guys followed my journey, supported me, and I hit 20,000 subscribers in December. And I was like, whoa, okay. Then I set a goal this year by December of 2024 to have 50,000 subscribers from 20,000. And as of today, we have 57,000 subscribers in our YouTube channel. So I totally appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your feedback on the topics that you want to discuss or me to discuss about it and engage our community. So I appreciate you so much for being here. Another thing I wanted to mention is that part of me elevating my community and my commitment to my mission, which is to level up the world through education. Education means what? It's just knowledge, guys. I shouldn't say just, it is knowledge, right? It could be informal or formal. I'm one person. The only way I can educate the world through different topics is people like Dr. George Ackerman. He is here today to provide knowledge on his experience, right? His journey with our topic today. Super important, dementia and Parkinson's. No one really talks about it that I have known. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, but I have known me personally than the way Dr. George Ackerman. And I cannot wait for you guys to meet him. But first, I want to tell you thank you for following us. We do have a new anthology coming up. Our first anthology that we created was last year. It was a note to my family. Susanna and I created it, and Nicole actually was leading that. But Susanna and I created that with her amongst 21 different co authors. The second anthology we're publishing, and technically my first as a publisher, it is my eighth book, is actually the Beyond Boundaries. You guys have seen it. It's on the magazine of Level Up. It's going to be on press release and Business Insider soon. That's 250 million people watching that. It is also going to be on other magazines as well that I'm cooking up on the side. You guys already know that I have access to 100 plus premium magazine. What does that mean, CJ? It means that anytime that you want to show up for CEO Weekly, for entrepreneurs, for Forbes, for Medium, for Disrupt, right? All of those amazing magazines that you hear people in, I have access to that magazine in a discounted price because I work with a PR International. So that is what I have for you. So I create legacies for you. I create course contents for universities and for my students as well. But this right here is my baby right now. We are trying to take our anthology all the way to 40,000 other distribution channels in the world. And Amazon only has 10. So we put it on Amazon for a little bit, but Amazon is super limited for the world. My vision is to be the Netflix of education along with my mission, which is to level up the world through education. And I can't level up everybody, right? If I have limited distribution. So I'm taking this book soon in about 2.5 months at Barnes and Noble. So we are going to have a what? A what? An event at Barnes and Nobles in North County that we're going to have book signing for all of my amazing co-authors. And thank you for keep getting this book to number one. Get this, guys, number one international best-selling book. And it's number one on new release as well. And I'm taking you guys to Spotify, Apple, Deezer, iHeartRadio. I can't even name all my distribution channels. And 90 nations and countries are listening to you starting last Friday with Kinga. Okay? So we are taking you all over. And tomorrow is our TV show with some of the co-authors, Harsha and Dr. Nu Trong tomorrow. So with that in mind, Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I almost said Friday because it feels like Friday, but today is only Wednesday. I'm going to share something with you guys really quickly. Let's see here. I'm sharing where to find the anthology and with Susanna. Okay. And remember, anthology is so much better if you're going to be a writer, even if you already are a writer, because you have 20 plus, maybe 10 plus authors that's going to market it together. So you can go to susannadawnwriter.com and just click on this right here, services and products, and you will see our new anthology called Moving Beyond Boxes, The Journey to Self Discovery. All right. The cost is $500. I say only because that comes with editing, TV show, radio show. It's if you actually calculate everything on this one, including editing, if you were doing your own book, we're talking 30,000 bucks. But for be in it on an anthology, it's 500. Get this tomorrow. Depending on how many people are commenting on our YouTube channel, because I only go to YouTube for my TV show, LinkedIn is too hassle for me. What's going to happen is that you can actually get in for free. I will do giveaways depending on how I feel on how many people are actually commenting on YouTube. But part of my giveaway for this month is for you to get in. For $500, you can get in for free. Two ways. Comment on our YouTube, be a subscriber. Second one is you can bring 4 friends and you can get in for free in our anthology. We do Zoom calls, we do live editing, we do networking, we do a lot of things for our anthology. You will never find an anthology the way ours is because I have a built in marketing in it. So the rough draft is about, the words is about 1,500 to 3,000 words per person. And then you can connect with us through DM. And so the full price, because if you use Stripe, we have to pay the fees. It's $510, and then for just to hold your if budget is low, to hold your space right now, because we do have a limited space, you can pay up 205 to start. And then by May 17, the other half of 305 will be due, right? So that is the reason why we have those fees embedded in there. So to hold your space, it's 205, and then by May 17, you can pay the rest of the 305, right? And money should not stop you from getting your legacies out there, right? A lot of people are doing self-publishing, but if you don't have marketing for your book, it's never going to go anywhere. So make sure to also join us on that conversation. All right. So, are you guys ready for Dr. George? Dr. George, give me a thumbs up if you are ready to come up. All right. He is ready. So, let's bring him up. Dr. George Ackerman, welcome. How are you?
No, great. Thank you for your time and your audience. It means the world to me and my family.
Awesome. So let's see who has first. Speaking of Susanna Dawn, she is an asthma winner. She's an asthma writer. She's amazing author. She probably have like 3 on her own book. And so she's my partner in crime on everything anthology. And of course, our Brody Ollie from Belgium. So while I'll highlight everyone, and they're here for you to literally learn about you, let's talk about you in the first place. And let me ask you this questions. Actually, not that question. It's this one. Um, think back 20 years ago and find within your timeline some of the significant changes in your life that got you here where you are today.
Sure. I mean, grew up in Brooklyn, New York. My mother was really the one who raised me and my brother, and I wouldn't be the man I am today if it wasn't for her sacrifices. She was a school teacher and had a master's degree and really gave all that up to raise me. So I felt that, unfortunately, when it became time to have the call to be her caregiver, I wouldn't have changed a thing. So I think what brings me here today is I've always been an advocate. I started my career as an attorney, also a police officer, and then did my PhD in criminal justice. So I'm a professor now, but I've always advocated, specifically in Florida, for African American mothers who lost their loved one due to murder. A lot of the times, unfortunately, the family members in criminal justice system are often forgotten by the system, and I was trying to fight to be their voice, and that kind of correlates to where we are today. A lot of the Parkinson's community, unfortunately, is forgotten, in my view. For the first time, thankfully, in history, last December, they passed in the United States House of Representatives the national plan to end Parkinson's disease, and that's really incredible. I'm actually speaking to United States Senator Rick Scott today, which is going to be an incredible opportunity to discuss Parkinson's awareness, because we're actually in April and this is Parkinson's Awareness Month right now. But today I fight for the Parkinson's disease community, people diagnosed, their caregivers, and also in memory of my mother and all those we've unfortunately lost due to the disease.
Wow, I love it. Fellow educator, I love it.
And I'm
We do service, right? We literally, like, people are like, we're not getting paid enough. No kidding. If you want to be a teacher, you're not going to get rich, but you get rich not financially. You get rich in your soul and in your heart because you're a giver. And we love to educate, but also, honestly, little secret is we like to learn a lot. That's why we're in education. And you are also teaching now. So yeah. And thank you for your service, being a police officer as well. So, and I see that you have a lot of passion, but one main passion that really, when we had a conversation, what is it, couple months ago, right? And conversation about what you're all about and why you are doing things today to advocate not just for people, but really what's near and dear to you, the topic of dementia and Parkinson's disease. Can you elaborate a little bit more of the why?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, my mother passed on 1/1/2020. So we started Together for Sharon.com in her memory. Just I thought 4 or 5 people would see it and that would be fine and I'd kind of move on. But as of today, we've had about 35,000 people visit the site. We do not accept money. None of this is about money, just like, in education. My goal is that I want everyone out there to know they're never alone in this fight and that I'll be out there fighting for them. Every day I see or hear or meet somebody struggling with the disease. We just did the Parkinson's Foundation walk last weekend, where it's great to be virtual, but when you're actually physically live with somebody and seeing them still suffering through the disease, and then their caregivers, they actually come up to me and they cry, and it's definitely inspiring, but also sad in the same light. I had the opportunity to meet Michael J. Fox a month ago, and he's it was kind of like my life flashed before me because it was an incredible moment, but also I was a little sad to see that he's struggling with the disease, and that's what inspires me to keep fighting. About a year ago, I realized there's about 1 million people with Parkinson's in the U.S., but 10 million throughout the world, and that was really shocking. Like I literally had a moment. I sat, looked at the sky or something, and just said that something has to be done. So I decided to not just focus on my mother and my journey anymore, but to realize, really highlight other people going through this, whether it's an advocate, a person. So I actually had the opportunity to interview 600 people throughout the world, from India to Africa to Italy to Spain, you name it, even Iceland and Nova Scotia, which I didn't even, imagine Parkinson's got to. And it's all on the website, completely free, and it's incredible because people write me now and say, I spent 10 hours on your site reading, interviews, and realize now I'm never alone. And that's what, I wake up, and some nights I don't sleep worrying about everybody else, which is a detriment, unfortunately, to my own health. But I just don't feel I can stop until there's a cure, because I don't want anyone to ever have to go through what my family and my mother has.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What literally burns up inside you? You're like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And it's so sweet that when we talk about it and your email address, it's all about your mom. And I love that. But I'm so curious, like a lot of people who have family who have Parkinson's disease. My my grandfather, he had dementia when he died. He didn't
Sorry.
know who we were. And he gets mad every 5 minutes. My um husband's grandma had dementia, but she was very violent. She's from Brooklyn, New York. So
That's where I'm from. I'm not-
she comes in here and she's like, "Are we in Brooklyn?" And I'm like, "Sure, grandma." We just drive her around pretending. She's like, "I want to take the train." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's a problem. We don't know if we have any train around here." Um, but it's so sad. It feels like they're just a shell of themselves at that point. It's not quality of life. Like, what kind of burned you up and said, "I'm going to do this"?
And the seeing the struggle of my mother just got as ingrained forever in my mind, and I feel like a part of her when she passed, a part of me also passed. She was my best friend, someone I considered a mentor, and she was literally there for me 24/7. First person I called when I graduated police academy, the first person I called even through the tough times like 9/11, because I'm from Brooklyn, even though I'm not the crazy, the violent one, but I'm on the good side. But so it's very hard. I don't have that person to lean on. She's not there, unfortunately, because of this disease. My mother had Parkinson's for about 15 years. She was very selfless, and she didn't, I don't think, wanted anyone to know. I don't know if she was ashamed or just unaware. Also, I only learned really the word Parkinson, but I didn't get involved till the last 4 years when I was called to her home in an emergency at 4 a.m. when we found out she now had late onset dementia. And she had been moving her furniture out of her house at 4 a.m. in fear of Nazis were inside and they were going to harm her. So that was the first time I knew that that was it. I had to take over really her life and help her and care for her and be there for her. But the beginning, the signs were she had a little stiffness in her left arm, but she didn't, it wasn't so bad that she was crippling and could still live a life. So she still drove, she lived independently. Unfortunately, as time progressed, it started seeing more things. And usually in Parkinson's, it's so different for every person, which is why there's no cure. It's very difficult. Like what happened to my mother in our journey doesn't mean that it'll happen to the next person. She had tremors, they were more internal. If you know, again, Mr. Michael J. Fox has external tremors, which is uncontrollable shaking. It's very, tough. I have friends now in the Parkinson's community who had to give up their careers. Like one was a truck driver and he just can't drive. And I mean, that was his life. He loved it. And to take something like that, your career, your family, it's very tough. Also, you have signs of dystonia and sometimes curling of the toes where you can't help it. And also, it affects the gut. So, major, major problems with stomach due to the medicines that they give. Also, the medicines only help control at times the tremors, but doesn't cure the disease. And currently, we don't have a cure for Parkinson's. But honestly, to answer your question, I feel that if we had more awareness, then we would have found a cure already. That's why I'm on this mission, because I feel, and I'm so grateful for your time and your viewers, because I consider you all family now. This is not something that I believe is just a quick, half-hour talk and then goodbye. I'm going to share this on my side with my people, my followers, but we all have to share this. And like I said, thankfully, we're going through part of history. This year or next, I hope the National Plan to End Parkinson's Disease will come to the Senate in the United States. If that passes, it's going to change the world for government funding to end Parkinson. So I, kind of plead with you and your viewers to reach out to your senator if you're in the United States, and please tell them to support the National Plan to End Parkinson's Disease.
I love that. I know a little bit about I think they call it the PDD, right? Parkinson's disease dementia. It's a little, I thought at first actually that they were separated. Like Parkinson's is separate from dementia, but they do have a combination of PDD. And it's literally, and it's sad because it's more of like a gradual decline in thinking and reasoning abilities,
Mhm.
and they have trouble focusing. And I'm thinking like, if my grandfather had it, maybe when I get older, I have it. And the problem is like every time, honestly, like I laugh about it with my kids, but if you really think about it, and this conversation's got me to think like I already have trouble focusing because I have ADHD. And then I have memory problems because I don't know why. And so every time I literally, and my husband literally tells me you have memory problems because there's so many things going into your head and you're just spitting out the ones that you don't really care about and you're focusing on what you care about and your brain is trying to to focus that way. And I was like, okay, that's a great, explanation. But then I in the back of my head thinking maybe I am there. So I would love to know, like, how do one know from the onset of it? Because I think you mentioned, like, we didn't know, or she may have known, but she didn't tell you guys. Like, what are the telltale signs that someone might be going towards that full blown?
Yeah, the problem is we don't really know why someone has it. The big belief right now is the environment. So things like pesticides. My mother had a nice home, but she lived there for 20 years and she had mold and termites like a normal home might. And I believe, who knows what they sprayed back then, 10, 15 years ago. But I've been speaking to medical experts and doctors because I'm not. I have a PhD in criminal justice. I just talk about my experiences with my mother and our journey, but many of them do believe it's the pesticides, it's the in the food and the fruit and things at the supermarket. I even learned yesterday that dry cleaning can cause possibly Parkinson's because of the things that they spray, and, that they use on the. When he was telling me that, I wanted to remove my jacket, like and throw it outside. And then also, so water. We have things. Unfortunately, there's a big lawsuit called Camp Lejeune, where many of the military and the families have now received, unfortunately, horrible diseases like Parkinson because of the drinking water. There's just a lot of other areas, legal cases. And the sad thing is, there's just not enough attention. Paraquat is another big one. It's if you have time to look up Paraquat, and that's very important. That's a bug spray and thing, but these are poisons that can get into our children and ourselves, whether it's the water, the air we breathe, or the food that we eat. I mean, something has to change. They're just not. I think again, it's just not enough awareness, and we need to be aware and change even the diet, how we live, and what we're using on our children and ourselves to end things like Parkinson's disease. Some of the signs, though, again, is the stiffness in your in the gait, like their entire ability to move. Some people have freeze, that's one sign. But again, it differs. Dementia is a different world. That one came more later. And the worst thing with dementia, and the scariest, it felt like it was in a horror movie, was the delusions and hallucination. When I brought my mother that night, she had gone to a special study and it didn't work out. I don't know if they drastically changed her medicine too fast, but that night when I brought her to the emergency room, they said we saved her life. But that wasn't even the scariest part. I went back to our home to pick up some clothes, and I can't explain that. Imagine your room where you are and all the pictures. Imagine post-it notes surrounding the room, almost like the movie A Beautiful Mind. And she actually wrote on each post-it note names and animals who are no longer alive, because at that point, at times, she wasn't able to appreciate or understand what was reality and what wasn't. And that's when we realized it's also late onset dementia. So it was a tough battle because every time we tried something, I felt like a hammer in the nail, just pounding me down. And there were days as a caregiver I wanted to give up, quit. I was angry, sad, upset, frustrated. But at the end of the day, I just wanted her to know that I would always be by her side. And I think, again, I don't regret anything. We did everything we could. And even today, I don't think we could have done anything. And that's why I fight today for a cure for other people in her memory, because I don't want them to ever have to go through what we have in my mother.
There's got to be a better way. I know, because when, like I said, my grandfather, he came from Guangzhou, China, and lived in the Philippines. Married my grandma, whose family also came from Spain. They just stayed in the island, apparently. And what's really sad is his body, because he did logging business for 40 years probably, and we had a lot of business. But his body was able to, like, it's still really good and strong, but his mind right there is just gone. What I've noticed, that I've known people who have dementia. I known at least 8 people. Some do get violent. Some actually, it's weird because their memory is so hyper focused on the very past and their early days. I don't know
Mhm.
if your mom had that situation, but I know my grandpa was talking about his childhood in China. And I'm like, Grandpa, you haven't been in China in, like, I don't know, 60 years.
Yeah, it's funny, and you bring that up because that was definitely something I have some stories about. But Parkinson's disease, unfortunately, is the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease in the world. Now we're finding people may not have it, but their neighbors are getting it. Again, the family, the cousins, and the friends, and it's just horrible to hear. But my mother did bring that up. I think it could have been more of the dementia than the Parkinson, but again, not sure. She would bring up that her mother and father were in the room. She would talk about her little dog, and she would laugh at some time. And it was so hard because you don't want to, you want to comfort them. You have the biggest secret I think that everyone should know is just love your, as a caregiver, love them no matter what. Even if it's tough. We had to remove her phone one point because she was calling the police because she was scared that people were going to haunt, because we had people kind of watching over her. I was tried to be there 24/7, but I also worked. And we put video cameras in because as a police officer, I believe my mother. She was always very honest. So I was worried maybe they were harming her. Luckily, they only caught one who we fired that did neglect her when she didn't sleep at all. So she had to have someone watch over her 24/7. I mean, we were spending $12,000 a month just to have people make sure she didn't fall. Because I knew if she fell, that would have just ended everything because it would have added even more issues. So, and I wanted her to, she always made me swear that we would never put her in a home, but she was always able to stay at her own home. And again, I don't blame anyone for doing that. There was days where I was telling my wife, who was my amazing support and my children, that I might have to go look at homes, even though I promised my mother I wouldn't. Because there was a point where I just didn't know what else to do. But I'm proud that I didn't get to that point.
Yeah, and my grandmother right now has dementia. She doesn't
Sorry.
remember me. Now at my age, she thinks I'm still 10. So when I see her, she's like, "Who are these beautiful people?" I was like, "It's your great grandkids." Who had kids? And I'm like, "Grandma, me." You're too young, sweetie. You're 10. I don't understand why you're having kids. And it's funny. So I just laugh about it. And when she was younger, she loves, going on the beach. So when I do beach wear, it reminds her, I think, of that. And she's like, let's go to the beach. She can't get up. She's not mobile. She had a hip surgery. She fell. So
Sorry.
it's been a long battle right now for her as well. Now, when we're talking about your mom and her journey, but we haven't really talked about your journey and how hard it is for the family. So if somebody is watching this right now, because it's going to stay in YouTube for a while, and we have like 60,000 subscribers in our YouTube channel, I want to know, how can they prevent that emotional roller coaster? How do you stay engaged and say, okay, we're gonna love her, but there's times where it's so difficult. You're like, I don't know what to do. How do you keep that?
Yeah, one of the most difficult things was explaining to my three children. She had three grandchildren, and that was the hardest because I didn't know what to tell them. The favorite time, Sunday mornings, was when my mother was with her grandchildren blowing bubbles in the backyard. It was just like, even for a few minutes, she forgot that she had Parkinson's if she wasn't sick that day. And that was the best feeling ever. But even explaining to the children what's happened to their grandmother was tough. I remember one time, which was really even hard now to speak, even 4 years later. My daughter, she was 7 at the time. My mother and I were in her room, my mother's room. And my mother started hugging the pillows and saying how much she loved Brooke, and but it wasn't Brooke; it was the pillow she was hugging. So it was really. My daughter looked at me, and she's only 7 again, and she kind of giggled, but in a weird way, like I look back and didn't even know what to say because it's like so shocking. You don't, it is your loved one and they're struggling and they don't appreciate or understand at that point, the difference between my daughter and the pillow. And it's just a very, very tough topic and thing to go through. The thing I do recommend, which I'm bad at, and I'm not going to say I didn't follow it, was always take care of yourself. I think the number one caregiving rule everyone that continues to tell me, even though I still don't do it today, is take care of yourself. Eat right. Fitness is very important, especially also for those who are diagnosed like 45 minutes a day. But diet is very important. I didn't do any of those things, so I will never lie. I didn't because, and I mean, I'm a big basketball player. I'm 6'2", 200 pounds, and I played it my whole life. I remember putting all this, now I'm getting older, so I have to put all this equipment on. Once you want to just go shoot around, I put all these, elbow things, ankle braces, as I broke my ankle several times. But so it took a half hour to get ready one Sunday morning. I'm all ready to go and get at least an hour to just forget everything. forget life. And my mother called in panic that someone's going to harm her. So I dropped everything and just rushed over just to comfort her. And those are the things sometimes you can't do because you have to, again, take care of yourself. So if anyone is listening and a caregiver going through this, definitely first take care of yourself because you're not going to be a benefit if you don't take care of yourself first. And that's one thing I look back at and maybe should have changed, but then I kind of have like the good guy and the bad guy on my shoulder, like kind of talking to me, and one is saying, take care of yourself. The other one saying, no, take care of your mother. One other thing is Parkinson's disease. They say you don't die from Parkinson's, you die with it. But my mother had no other medical issues at all. So that's an interesting area that's always up for debate. I feel it was because of PD or maybe because of all the medicines just kind of destroy the person after time. But those are just some of the areas that I wanted to share.
Thank you for sharing that because I think when my father in law had his mom who had dementia in his home, she has a cane. Our grandma had a cane, and she would hit his wife really hard. She had to go to the urgent care, and so then they had to lock her room because she would actually leave around 1 a.m. and wander around the city at night. And there's part of the city that's not so safe. And then one time she got lost. They had to call the police, and she was found in the park talking to a homeless guy. And that's not really safe for
Yeah.
her, right? Especially in today's world. So they had to decide that obviously you can't lock her in the room all day. They work. So they had to have a nurse in, but she would hit the nurse as well. So she had to go to a home that can take care of her. We had to go visit often to make sure she wasn't harmed because she has a violent tendency to do that. And it's not like she's my size. She's not 5 feet tall. This woman's 6'1". Okay, full force. So I'm like, oh gosh, no. Um, so it was really difficult to see. And it's surprisingly, she remembers my kids. She doesn't remember me or my husband. My husband is her grandkid, but she remembers my kids. And so I was like, wow, that really made a difference. She makes cookies for them all the time. We didn't actually let our kids see her that way.
Yeah,
Um,
that's an important thing you just said. So there were days when my mother didn't want anyone to see her, especially their grandkids. But when they were with her, she had a little bit of a smile because that was the only time she enjoyed, even if they were screaming because they're all young. But it was just great to have everyone together. And I remember, as it got worse the last 4 years, I don't want to get into books yet, but I'm writing a second book, and it's probably going to be called A Seat at the Table, and it has two meanings. And one is that we no longer have her at the table for holidays, which is heartbreaking. But also, a lot of times I don't have Parkinson's, and I'm no longer a caregiver of someone alive with Parkinson's. But people like me also still have a voice, and my mother still matters. And that's a big fight that I'm also advocating, is that we should never let anyone, and there's millions of people who passed due to Parkinson's and their families still alive, should never let them be forgotten. That's something that I just started on the website. We have a section called In Memory where I interview people who lost a loved one due to Parkinson's because I think they still need a lot of attention and care, and they shouldn't be forgotten. And that's something that is important to me. But I do want to also not shift, but say there is a lot of light from the darkness. So even though I went through this horrible situation, I want everyone leaving here today feeling a little bit positive, but also have hope in their heart that we will find a cure through our efforts today and through everybody out there fighting and sharing this podcast and this talk. Because I feel, again, if we even reach one person today and make them aware of Parkinson's, we change the world for the better. But there are so many inspiring stories out there and journeys, and I've had the honor to meet people like you who I consider family now, because this is not, again, no offense to other people, it's not about sports or anything. This is about life. We're changing lives. We can save lives. And it just means so much to me that you provided this forum and the opportunity, and something I'll never forget. And, again, sometimes I'll have these talks and I'm fine. And like I said, I'm a big guy, but I'll walk in the next room, see my wife, and start falling apart still because it's not easy. And it's there's never a day or moment, I don't think, I wish we had a cure because my mother would still be right next to me. And the funny thing is, she would, if you met my mother, she was so funny. She would say, George, don't waste your time. Spend your time with the kids. She would probably be proud of everything now, what we've done. But, again, I trade it all to have her back.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard this many times, but your mom is watching over you. I don't know how spiritually you are, but she's watching over you. Probably, I don't know if she danced either, but she's dancing. She's like, yes, please help the community. I truly believe that sometimes we're given some adversities in our life to not just affect us, but instill in us the importance of life and loved ones. But what you're doing is bigger than you. It's not even about you at this point. It is about the people who suffered much like you to have whatever life that they have with their family left, a memorable one, right? Some people I've known who have Parkinson's or dementia is that sometimes it's not both, it's just one.
Yeah.
Um, they 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 have that feeling of guilt that they couldn't be there for their loved one because they didn't want to see them at that stage. And I feel like they're a shell, but I think some portion of them do know that you're there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's important you said that. I actually, again, just wrote a book, and ironically, it came out today. Like, I don't know how that happened. It's just, in the last year, I kept a journal, and I'm not a journal person, but I just didn't know what to do. I had a great support from my wife and family, but I felt I needed to scream some days, and I did it through writing. So I actually wrote down every single day almost for the last year, and it's really down deep into my feelings, and you'll be able to read this journey of the last year. But of course, there's a lot of good in the book too. It's not just about that. So some people might even want to skip that chapter. Many people write a book, you say read everything, but it's gonna, that one chapter is tough. But I just wanted my mother's journey to be out there. And the big thing I really promote is I don't want anything in return. If you go to togetherforsharon.com, you'll see resources, you'll see our journey. You'll see my meeting with Mr. Michael J. Fox, Jack Osborne, who's Ozzy Osbourne's son, who has Ozzy has Parkinson's. He just gave a message for me. Kenny G, the famous saxophone player, wrote a song and played it for my mother. It's all on the website, and it's just incredible, like the outpour throughout the community and the world that we're getting. I have my own podcast that concentrates more on people with Parkinson's, and yesterday I had the honor to interview Dr. Ray Dorsey, who's one of the leading doctors in the world for Parkinson's disease. Today, again, I'm interviewing the United States Senator Rick Scott, which is incredible. So some of the people, we're getting on are just amazing. I interviewed the Ted Thompson, who's the head of the policy division in the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And it's just been an incredible journey. And I called the book It's in Memory of My Mother, but it's really not just her journey, like you had mentioned, it's about mine, but from caregiver to today advocate, because I'm never going to stop. And I want my only message today is I want everyone out there to know there's people, maybe me, out there fighting for you. And I do it 24/7, even though I'm, kind of losing my own work and life. But I feel that you have to give back and fight to get to the end result, which is a cure. So that was really what the book is. I didn't expect to put a book out because, again, my big thing is really I don't want anything in return. If you go to the website, again, I host 600 interviews completely free. I interview the people free. Everything we do is just out of love and support. So it's hard though. In 2024, it's sad because it's like Shark Tank. You always think for the moment, but wait, there's more. But no, I'm not selling anything we don't want. We have a donation section, and any money, it's pretty amazing. It's links from the Parkinson's Foundation, the American Parkinson's Disease Association, Drive Toward a Cure, Michael J. Fox Foundation, so big organizations like Power Over Parkinson. And they actually made a link. It's in memory of my mother, but all donations go to them. So we do not accept money. If you send me something, I'll send it right back to you. Somebody once handed me $5 and said donate it to me, and I actually donated to the Michael J. Fox Foundation and emailed him a receipt. Because that's not what this is about. But it's sad that sometimes you have to kind of prove it. But if you go visit the site, you'll see that it's really come to life. And even I get lost in the site sometimes because it's just getting so big. And it's a great thing, but the main purpose again is I'd like to, I sit sometimes seeing my daughter. She's now 11, and I say to myself, maybe I should ask her if she'll continue together for Sharon on. But then I thought again, 10 years, I don't want to have the site. I want to have a cure. I want to end this all. So that's the goal.
Yeah, and that's the goal. Some diseases like polio, right? Probably before we found a cure, everyone suffered, and finally somebody did. And we do need the money to go to research because that's the only way we can end it is through research, right? We do need the money. We just need to know where to put the money for the research. So thank you for saying that Michael J. Fox is doing that. I actually I want to talk a little bit about your book before we end this conversation. It is on
First
Amazon,
time,
guys.
it's the first time I've ever, it's like exclusive. If you have like a little alert, we'll have to, I've never spoken about my book before.
Right. So here's the thing. Right there, down below, in on my YouTube and on my Facebook, I sent you guys the link. But if you just type that title, A Son's Journey from Parkinson's Disease, you will see that picture, and that is from this amazing man right here, Dr. George Ackerman. Okay.
You
So
know,
we're
I was
doing this. We're going to support you because this is a journey that is for our community. The more we know about the disease, the more we can have research, the more we have funding to do this research. And you're doing the legwork already. Why not support you in your journey? So, Level Up Academy is all about supporting our community. I do want to talk a little bit about your book and what are some of the goodies we can find out about this book, Dr.
Yeah, what I
Ackerman?
was shocked was before I even wrote it, because I've written this dissertation, I've done books in law and policing, but not in the area of Parkinson's awareness. But I was shocked that there's no other, and I could be wrong, so feel free to write me because it's just me. We're not a foundation, we're not a company, it's just me. I'm a son who lost his best friend mother due to this disease and just decided to advocate and start the website. But there's no other book from a son's point of view who lost their mother due to Parkinson's out there in the world, which was shocking. So I said that we have to change that. That was very important to me. The book is important too because a lot of time I don't like putting Dr. George Ackerman. If you notice, I always put Sharon's son George because that's what this is about. It's not about me, but everybody does, want to know a little bit about me. So the book is great because it has about the first signs of Parkinson's. So it'll go through the first signs. It talks about symptoms and treatments, my primary caregiving, my support from my wife and my children, trying to find good aids, which is a whole podcast. It was a nightmare. Like we had to fire 20 different companies and hundreds of aids because they didn't even know what Parkinson's was. One person took my mother out of the house when she was very sick to her house to go grocery shop. So, I mean, some of the stories are crazy, but that's what reality was. Also, finally, advice on great caregiving. So there's a lot of tips and ways to change and to, I wanted to motivate people. I didn't want to depress people, but also, the tough one is chapter 8. It's about her last week. Also, I thought of this, it came out of nowhere, but chapter 9 is actually all her friends gave me messages, which is really beautiful. So I gathered about 20 of her best friends throughout her whole life, and they wrote a little passage on, remembering my mother. And then the aftermath and the mission forward and how grateful I have a whole chapter, how grateful, because not just grateful for you, doctor, but to your, also your followers and fans. But I mean, I wouldn't be able do this if it wasn't for all of you. You keep me going. You push me to want. Even when we spoke today, I got all these new ideas, and just there's not enough time. But I write a little list and try to check it off as we go. But and before we do conclude, I do have a little quote for everyone. I don't know if you want me to say it now or before we finish.
Go
So
for it.
yeah, I end every podcast I do or anyone I go to with this message for everyone. Goes to you too, but we love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I will advocate with the doctor here for you, and together our voices are so much stronger. And I always say in a kind of joking way, but I'm just getting started because every day I wake up and I see another journey or another person or meet somebody going through this disease or battle. It re-energizes me and makes me want to keep fighting. Unfortunately, May 21st, I'll be honest, I'm having my third major spine surgery. I have a lot of medical issues with my back, and we don't even know why. And the other day, I was in pain. I lay down and I decide, you know what, forget this, forget my pain, get back up and fight for everybody else. So sometimes you have to sacrifice, like my mother sacrificed. I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for her. And I wouldn't be the man I'm becoming if it wasn't for you and your audience and all the incredible people in the world that I'm just trying to reach. And I just want to end this disease. So I really, again, grateful for you, your audience, and everyone out there for the time today. And please keep pushing. Please keep fighting. You're never alone.
First of all, thank you. With all your pain, I know what it means to have a back pain. I live with the scoliosis. So, yes. Um,
Sorry.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for dedicating your life to fighting for everyone in the world who suffer from this disease. Your mom was the catalyst for this change and the spark that ignited awareness for you to say, let's go. So I appreciate that. Dr. New actually is a pharmacist, but you will not find a pharmacist who's advocating for holistic approach than her. She says medicine is needed, but not really. Let's go with meditation. Dr. New is somebody you want to know when you are stressed out, and she does consulting for that because sometimes you need alignment. It's not necessarily spirituality as in like, oh, I have to be a Christian or I have to be this. It has nothing to do with that. Sometimes we need that. We are energy beings, so we need to get alignment of what life is all about, right? When you're young, you don't think about this thing. You're like, what do you mean? What's that juju you're talking about? When you're at the age where nothing seems to work, you are going to try something new. And don't knock it till you try it. That's what I always say, right?
Yeah.
But Dr. New says you're not alone and you are not alone. And she's right. We are better together. I love collaboration over competition. Ollie is from Belgium. We're here for you. We need more awareness and also tackle the root cause or root causes. You mentioned food, environment, right? Um, and I'm never going to forget that. Like someone took your mom to go grocery shopping. Can you imagine if she did get lost in the groceries? Like,
It's scary. That's a whole chapter for another day. It's just
right? I
frustrating.
was like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh, what the
because
heck did you do?
you're fighting to fight the disease. Then you have the other things, and then it's it's on top of the. We don't even have the time, but it's we were spending 12,000 a month just for someone to stand there and make sure she didn't fall. That didn't count groceries, the rent, the house, the just trying. My wife was a dream too. Like she was best friends with my mother, and I'm a guy. So male caregiving is another important issue I have a chapter about, which I was shocked when I found out that it's surprised that I was male and talking about this, which is really scary because everybody should want to support their loved one, whether you're male or not, or female. But my wife tried, even for short times when my mother wasn't too sick, to bring in pedicure or manicure and get her hair done. And that really like changed the world for me because it was beautiful. It's like, even for a moment, just to get her to feel like a real person again. And the Parkinson's disease doesn't define the person. It might take, years in your life and your ability to focus and do things, but it can never take away the memories that I had with my mother ever.
No. And it's a beautiful memory.
And
Spirituality, energy, getting back to who we are, and so important to better help you heal inside and out. I
you had
love that.
mentioned Yeah, you mentioned earlier about dancing, but I don't know if you can see it. It was hard, but this picture is my mother son dance in my wedding, one of my favorite days ever. And she loved Barry Manilow, so it was yeah, we
Really?
played. Yeah,
I
I
oh
Am Your
my
Son is the name of the song, and yeah, that was we actually saw him together when I was a kid, and it was like one moment, like it's like the movie again. Time just stops. She had Parkinson's, but we didn't. She didn't feel it, and we just I can't even say much more because I'll fall apart. But that's why I chose it for the book cover, just because it's one moment that Parkinson's will never take from us.
thank you so much. I see your heart and I know that you're not thinking about your surgery, but we're going to pray for you.
Oh,
We're going to pray for your doctors to have discernment and knowledge and know-how and wisdom to make sure that they
thank you.
take care of you because you got long ways to go. We're just scratching the surface. So we need to make sure. I do want to also add to what you're saying about the quote. There was one powerful quote from Michael J. Fox, right? Because he has Parkinson's disease for many years.
Yeah.
And he said, optimism is a cure for many things. Simple, but if you really think about it, it's the root cause for everything that we do. Optimism is a cure for many things. And because of you, people who are suffering from Parkinson's disease and dementia and their families is going to think about that. Optimism is a cure for many things. Whether it's your heartbreaking, seeing your family member just feels like it's a shell. I've experienced that many times right now with my families. Um, but bring that good memory and keep it to your heart. And my dear sister Susanna says, thank you for what you do to educate others on this, Dr. George Ackerman. An
Thank
important
you.
discussion.
Yeah,
Very important.
another Michael J. Fox Foundation belief is their quote is they're going to be there until Parkinson's is not, which I love. That's the same with me. We'll keep fighting until there's no more disease, and hopefully, we can end all these diseases. I actually just started last thing on togetherforsharon.com. If anyone wants to reach out, I'm on every social media, and I don't know why or how, but it's just grown, and it's just me, so it's not easy some days, but it's important. Feel free. Again, I'm always here. I respond to everybody if I can, and it's just amazing how the support is out there. But we have so much more work to do, and I can't stop till we do that.
Thank you so much for your work. Thank you for all that you do. I appreciate you. My people here at the Hands of Business community appreciate you. And thank you for sharing your passion, your life, your love, your pain. I can see it through your eyes. Any last minute, anything for my people other than your book that's already out? What else did you want us to support you? And how can we support you?
I mean, feel free to visit Together for Sharon. It's all spelled out in the words.com. And it's just amazing. You'll see some incredible journeys of people around the world. I've interviewed Parkinson's UK, Australia. I mean, you name it. It's sad to say. I mean, I have stories about a gentleman I interviewed in Africa where they believe Parkinson's is witchcraft. So they actually took his mother away from him. He had to escape it. It almost sounds like a movie, and he had to find her and explain. It was just, these are the misconceptions. Also, it's not an elderly man disease anymore. People can get it. It's called young onset, like Michael J. Fox, at even age 30. I heard somebody in a story that a baby was born with Parkinson's, which I don't know if I can verify, but the only way we're going to end this is to change our environment, get lawyers involved. They need to make big changes in political world. It's a bipartisan issue, which I love. I'll be interviewing again at 2 o'clock, United States Senator Rick Scott about Parkinson's, and it's bipartisan. We're in a country now with all this arguing, but there's nothing to argue. There's both sides or all sides want to end this disease. So it's really a great opportunity again for everyone out there to reach out to your senators if you're in the U.S. And what I'm hoping, to be honest, and last thing is that once it does pass in the U.S., that other countries will literally take the same plan and do it in their country. So this shouldn't be just stop with the U.S. It should go to from country to England to France to
It's
Spain
a
to Italy.
world issue. It's not a United States issue. Yeah.
Right, and my wife is Cuban, so we need to help the Cubans too. But we're all family in this fight, like one of your viewers also said. And I just am a big believer, and I can only be. I'm just one person. I might make a voice and make an impact, but together, boy, we can really change the world. So again, thank you all, and feel free to add me on. I'm always on all these websites, and I just love meeting people. And last thing, the only journey that breaks my heart is the one that I'm not aware of. That's the best way to end.
We love you, Dr. George Ackerman. Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching Level Up Academy podcast. I will actually see you tomorrow on the TV show for Harsha and Dr. New. And just an announcement, we are expanding our distribution for our TV show. We're going to go on LG. We're going to take over LG and Samsung Network as well, in addition to Roku, Amazon Web, Fire, Apple TV, and everything else. So that's the reason why my mission is going to get stronger because of people like him. Okay. We need to work together. Our world is not as big as you think when it comes to information. We have the technology. We just need the people to really work at it and support our cause. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you so much for being here in our Level Up Academy podcast. Bye, everybody. See you soon.